In today's video, we're going to show you how to install a Fore Innovations fuel system.
All right, so once you get your fuel hat installed, we're going to take an ethanol-friendly thread sealant. We're going to put on the threads. We're going to install both of the fittings, right? This is going to be your feed, which is the -10. This is going to be your return, which is the -8. These are those initial fittings that you're going to build on the lines, and then you're going to go out this corner over here, and there's going to be the ability to run those lines out and down under the car, which we'll show you underneath the car as well. For what we're doing here, the Fore system comes with all the harnesses all covered and cleaned. They've been sealed already on the top side of your hat. So what we do is factory, you've got this little dangler of a wiring harness, and I've already rewired all this up, but it's got 4 wires on it, and it comes to a factory wiring harness that comes in and clips into your OEM fuel hat underneath here. So we actually cut that off. You're going to take the 2 thin lines here, these 2 thin lines, there's going to be a yellow and there's going to be a green. Both of those are going to go into the black lines that have the pink spades on your Fore Innovations fuel hat. Those are going to be for your fuel level sending unit. Then the other 2 lines, one is going to be a white with a yellow and brown strip. We just take that, we secure that, we piggyback it, we dead end the line, keep it in place. And then on your FPDM, we're going to come over to here and we're going to grab your purple with the green tracer. So it's this one, okay? We cut it at the FPDM. We leave enough of a little bit of a stud here so that if we ever have to go back, we can reattach and not be all the way up on the plug terminal here. So we leave enough here, right? And then we take and we wire that trigger. That trigger wire is going to come all the way up into here, into your FC3 or FC2, depending on which one you've purchased, into your box from Fore Innovations. Now in this instance, Yusuf opted for the FC3 controller because he's running 3 pumps, and we did do the upgraded 30 amp fuses, if you'll notice here. It comes with power and ground, and just a couple things that I do that, you know, when I'm installing is I go ahead and attach that power and ground to an existing harness here. That way it has no ability to come loose. You're going to run your ground, skin the painted area, so that way you know you have a good, fresh, no paint touching, good, fresh ground. And in this instance, Yusuf doesn't run any rear seats. He runs a rear seat delete, and he doesn't have any children or any car seats. So the metal brackets that were here, we removed, and we have a nice fresh spot for his ground to go. On the power side, this is going to run along the OEM harness around the back side here. And everywhere that I have an OEM attachment point, is where I zip tie our new wiring to the wiring harness. Also have a black wire here. This black wire here is actually all the way up to the front of the engine bay for your hob switch. That's going to be your staged controller for your 3rd pump. And so we take both of those, we zip tie them along to the OEM harness, follow that all the way out to the front of the engine bay, and you're going to cut a little nipple off the firewall grommet and go straight out into the engine bay with that. Okay, so once you've got your pump installed in the car, right, we want to show you a little bit under the car here of what we're talking about with running your lines. So in this instance, we've got a larger feed than we do a return. We've got a -10 feed, we've got a -8 return. So what we typically do is once we get the fuel hat set in there and get those 2 fittings on the top of the fuel hat set in place, then we're going to build the first side of the lines. You're going to build the 1-10 end, you're going to build the 1-8 end. They're going to push those out the car. And then what we're going to do is we're going to run them here. Factory, there's a large piece of black plastic. You pull this down, and you should be able to run your fuel lines along your brake lines here, the OEM brake lines. You've got hard lines here. As you can see, Cody's mounted our billet. This is a Fore Innovations billet fuel filter. We've used their billet mount. We've mounted it right to the chassis. Then you're going to pull your line to here, build your second set of fittings to go onto the pump, and then you're going to go forward. Same idea here. We're just going to keep going here. We're going to zip tie in place. We also have not finished this install yet, so there's going to be some rubber P-clamps that get drilled in to hold these tight to the chassis. And then at the end, we're going to put the plastic back on. You can see Cody's been starting to modify the plastic here so that when it goes back up on the chassis, it is going to make clearance for our big filter rather. Once you come all the way forward, we're working on this Gen 3 car. So we're going to have the DI is where we're going to feed. So we come in under the front of the car, we come in around, and we go up to the passenger side to get access to the DI. And we'll show you all that under hood. And then on the return, that's going straight up to the regulators, which in this instance, we have both regulators mounted on the driver's side. And so that's going there. And that's pretty much it for underneath the car. On the engine bay side, what we did is we came into the firewall. There's a large rubber grommet with a little nipple. You're going to cut that nipple off, and you're going to run your wiring out that nipple. What we do then is we come in underneath the battery tray, we bring this in, and we put our 100 amp circuit breaker on the back side of the battery box here, and we bring that in, put your power to the one side of the circuit breaker, and then you're going to build a harness from that side of the circuit breaker to your power terminal here in the fuse box. So it comes from here for full power, goes into the 100 amp circuit breaker, leaves the 100 amp circuit breaker, and goes all the way back to your FC3 controller. As far as the engine bay install, we have, this is again a Gen 3 car, so we have DI side and PI side. We have 2 regulators in this install. So we fed the DI, you saw where we were underneath the car, we talked about coming in this way, so the feed comes into the DI, it leaves the DI, comes in, goes over to the regulator there, comes back into the rail, comes across, goes into the rail, leaves the rail, goes back into the other regulator, and then returns the fuel. And so then each regulator gets its own fuel gauge, and those can be mounted you know, however different way you want. Again, same idea with this kit is that it gives you the flexibility to maneuver and change based on your specific needs. You just don't want to mount your regulators to the firewall. I believe that that's an NHRA violation. So other than that, we just like to see them typically strut tower side. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We just kind of wanted to give you guys a high-level overview of what a Fore Innovations fuel system looks like, what you should expect to look like a finished install if you're hiring us to do it, and then also so that you could have this as a guideline for yourself if you're doing the install on your own.